Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Today we are going to be heading out west. We are heading to the Western Conference to go over my predictions for the 2024-2025 NHL season. So today we're starting things off on the West Coast in the Pacific Division. We're heading to the Gold Coast today, and that's actually where we're going to start today's video. A little bit of an insight, and probably not too surprising, but we're going to be starting off at number 8 here, looking at the team in teal, the San Jose Sharks. I know rebuild's going to continue this season for Mike Greer's San Jose Sharks. 78 points is going to be my prediction for the Sharks, and that's a shame because last season, last season they finished with 47 points. So 78 points is a lot considering where they finished last year. I think they're a lot better than that this season. I think we're going to see a lot of the younger players coming in, some of the additions they made. There's going to be a better team next year. I truly believe that. But I still have them finishing at the bottom of this division. So, 78 points for the Sharks. Barclay Goodrow is back with the San Jose Sharks. I think that is awesome. Nico Sturm, Ty Dellandrea. I actually like that bottom six. Wenberg, Cunnin, Bordeleau. I think Bordeleau is eventually going to move up into the lineup, into the top 6 at some point, because he is probably going to be a top 6 winger in the NHL. At least that's the potential of where he could be. Your center core, Macklin Celebrini, Mikael Granlund. Granlund's a little bit of a wild card, but I think that with guys like Eklund and Smith there, they could also be centers. I think this team's going to be okay there. You've got Tyler Toffoli who comes in. Fabian Zetterlund, probably a little bit too high up there on the top line, but I think they're trying to balance things out. I think Toffoli and Celebrini is going to be a really good combo. I think at some point they're going to try Granlund or Eklund with him as well. They're going to try out a lot of different things with Celebrini. They've got a little bit more to work with, and I'm really interested to see how this team kind of goes forward from last season, right? Like I said, they had 47 freaking points last year. You have to improve on that. And I really believe they will. Their defense is still questionable, but I talked about this in my video with the Red Wings. I think that was a huge loss for them. I think their defense really hurts. I think the Sharks bringing in Jake Wallman, that is a huge pickup for them. So now on the right side, you've got Mario Ferraro and Jake Wallman. Now, other than that, there's a lot of questions. So Marc-Edouard Vlasic is still on this team. They're still kind of riding out that contract at this point. It seems like that's where things are at there. He's a good veteran presence in this room, especially with all the young guys. Jan Ruda, same thing. Ty Emberson is listed as the top pairing defenseman right now. Ty Emberson has been a prospect with the Rangers the last couple years. He gets traded over to the Sharks. He's going to get more minutes and ice time, but I think the Sharks really like what they've seen from Ty Emberson in Hartford. He's going to get a lot of ice time with the Sharks. Keep an eye out for Ty Emberson. I think he's one to watch. Henry Thrun is the other one to watch for on the blue line. Honestly, all things considered for the Sharks, with where the expectations of this team have been, that's actually pretty solid. Goaltending, you've got Mackenzie Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek, a bunch of former New Jersey Devil goalies. That's why this team is at the bottom of the division. And you're going to see in a second just the gap between teams like the Sharks and everybody else. Yeah, the Sharks are the goaltending and defense not there yet. I like the offense. It's showing a lot of promise, but defense and goaltending, not good enough. Not good enough yet. At number 7 is the Calgary Flames. The Flames are a team with a lot of promise. I really like the Flames, but I still don't like them enough to put them in anywhere near the playoffs quite yet. 87 points for the Flames, anywhere between 80 to 90 points in that range. I know that's a wide range, but that's kind of where I have them right now. Huberdeau, Backlund, and Coleman have to have a better season than they did last year. This is the team. They need those guys to step up. Anthony Mantha, I think a full season there will benefit from getting more ice time, hopefully regaining some confidence. I like Andrei Kuzmenko. He's going to get better. Looking at some of the younger guys on this team, you've got guys like Pospel, Connor Zary. I like seeing those guys. Those guys are going to get better for them. I like some of the guys like Kadri, Lomberg, who they brought in from the Florida Panthers. He's got cup pedigree there. The defense isn't that bad. I think it's actually a little closer to the defenses we saw from the late 2010s from Calgary. You got Mackenzie Weegar, Daniil Miromanov, Rasmus Anderson, Kevin Ball, Jake Bean, Braden Piquel. That's a big defense. Weegar, Ball, those are big defensemen. I really think that's going to help them out. They've got some puck movers there with guys like Jake Bean, Anderson, Miromanov. I think there's a good combination of the tough, big defensemen and the guys that can move the puck as well. I think that's going to benefit them this year. Dustin Wolf is going to have to stand on his head this year. The show's on him. Now that Jacob Markstrom's gone, this is his team now in between the pipes. Dan Vladar, who it seems like he's been there forever now, he will be also there in between the pipes. I like the Calgary Flames. I think there's going to be improvement. They finished with 81 points. I think they're going to finish around that. Maybe a little bit improved, but they're going to be right around there again this year. Seattle, I have them finishing with 89 points and finishing at 6th in this division. They had 81 points last year, similar to Calgary. I think they're going to see slightly more improvement because I think some of their additions in the summer are going to make a difference for this team moving into this year. And adding guys like Brandon Montour and adding some cup pedigree with guys like Chandler Stevenson, I think those guys are really, I think they got overpaid, but that's really what the Kraken needed this summer. They addressed the things they needed to. And if it means a little bit of an overpayment, yeah, but you still got the guy through the door. I think they got the right guys there as well. So you've got Jared McCann, Beniers, and Eberle as your top line. I miss Eberle so much as an Islander fan. I'm glad to see him doing well. He had a great season with Beniers last season. McCann had a good season. Schwartz, Stevenson, and Burakovsky. Like to see a little bit more from them this year. Eli Tolvanen, Yanni Gord, Bjorkstrand, they did really well last year. Ty Kartai is hopefully going to get a permanent spot in the NHL this season. Shane Wright, same thing. Brandon Tanev coming back. This is a solid defense, and I think it got better with Brandon Montour. The top four here, even though Larson and Alexiak are a little bit older, they're reliable. You know what you're getting from this defense. Dunn, Larson, Alexiak, and Montour. I love it. That's a good defense. Now, Riker, Evans, and Will Borgen, not so sure about those guys, but your top four is legit, stable, and structured. Those are words you want to hear about your defense, especially going into the season. I do like that. Philip Grubauer and Joey Daccord is your goaltending. No changes there. That's been the same now for the last 2 years. And that's unfortunately why I have them still missing the playoffs, is because I think they still have, like I said, they had 81 points last year. They added Stevenson. They added Montour. But this is a team, if there's any injuries, and if the goaltending is where it was last year, they're still not good enough to make the playoffs. But there's a lot of promise there. And like I said, the biggest praise I can give them is I love that top four defense. I think that's really the strength of the Seattle Kraken. And we know Ron Francis likes to build good defenses. He's definitely done that, at least the top four for the Seattle Kraken this season. The Anaheim Ducks. So the Anaheim Ducks, I think, were the team last year that they started off out of the gate so good and then just tanked. Utterly tanked. 59 points last season, 27 wins, 50 regulation losses. That's not going to happen this year. I think the Anaheim Ducks are going to be right on the cusp of that playoff boundary this year with 91 points. I think they are going to be that much improved. And when you look at this team right now, Alex Killorn, probably a little bit too high up on the list here on the top line, but we're going to see in a second why I like this team. Leo Carlson is your number one center. Troy Terry, Cutter Gauthier, who I think is a huge wild card this year. I think Cutter Gauthier is going to be the player we expect him to be. I know there's a guy that's been malaised and a little bit of an attitude and kind of forced his way out of Philly. I think he's going to be a good fit with the Ducks. Playing alongside Trevor Zegras, Frank Vetrano, you have that perfect blend there. I think what Killorn and Vetrano, that is the definition of what this team is looking for. Is there was a little bit of like the bigger, tougher guys that stand in front of the net. They're going to play alongside the skill guys like Carlson and Terry or Gauthier and Zegras. I think that makes a lot of sense. Even the third line is solid. This is a solid third line. Ryan Strome, Mason McTavish, and Robbie Fabry. A lot of those guys could be filling guys on pretty much every team's second line in the NHL. I like that. Brock McGinn, Isaac Lundestrom, and Brett Leeson. Isaac Lundestrom has been a very good, serviceable center for this team. This center core is legit. Carlson, Zegras, McTavish, and Lundestrom. That is a wet dream for most NHL GMs at the center spot. That is a really good center core. And then you added some of the guys like Robbie Fabry, who are hit or miss. He's had some good seasons in St. Louis and Detroit. Had some bad ones as well. Cutter Gauthier could be a boom for this team. I like what I see from the Ducks forward group. Defense got better as well. I like Olin Zellweger, Pavel Matikov, both coming in on the left side. There's a lot of risk because they're young, but I think they are solid. Brian Dumoulin is probably going to be injured at some point. Probably going to miss at least 20 games next season. But when he's in the lineup, he's a good defenseman. And then on the right side, yeah, it's a little bit weak. I think Jackson Lacombe, honestly, in terms of potential, is going to be the best defenseman here. Jackson Lacombe, and then you've got Radko Gudas and Cam Fowler ahead of him. That is the weak point of this team, I think, is the right shot. I wish they had a little bit more depth on the right side. Gudas and Fowler, whether they're injured or even when they're healthy, you're not really sure what version of them you're going to get. But there is a lot of good young defensemen here with Zellweger, Matikov, and Lacombe that are going to be the core of the Ducks' blue line in the future. And in between the pipes, John Gibson and Lucas Dostal. We're still talking about Gibson. We're still talking about trade rumors. I'm sure we'll make videos about it this season. But Lucas Dostal and John Gibson continue to hold down the fort in between the pipes, at least at the making of this video. I really like the Ducks. I think last season was an outlier. Kind of like the Devils. I think the Ducks are going to be last year's version of the New Jersey Devils. They got hit with injuries. They got a lot better with some of the draft guys that they have. Either they're in their second year like McTavish and Carlson, or they're coming into the NHL like some of those blue liners. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. And I think that's really why I have them missing the playoffs still, is because they are going to go through a lot of growing pains, especially on that blue line. But this is going to be a legit team that's still good. They've got good goaltending. They've got a good forward group that's strong with a lot of depth. It's that defense. I think it will improve, but I'm not necessarily sold on it being ready this season. Number 4. Hanging to number 4, we've got the Los Angeles Kings. I like the Kings for a lot of reasons, but I also don't like the Kings for a lot of reasons. I think they made an interesting move, trading out Dubois. Alex Turcotte's going to fill out that spot. We've been talking about him for years. Why hasn't he made the lineup? Why isn't he developing? What's going on with this kid? He's going to get a chance now. He's going to get a chance playing alongside Alex Laferriere and Warren Foegele on the third line. I think that's a spot that's he could hide a little bit more quiet. I think that's actually a good thing for him. Moore, Deneau, and Fiala, Byfield, Kopitar, and Kempe. That's your top 6. Going to stay pretty much the same as last year. Tanner Jeannot, Lewis, and Kaliev is your 4th line. I love it. I'd like to see a little bit more size in the bottom 6, but I'm okay with it. Defense is solid. I like this defense. Now you've got Mikey Anderson, Drew Doughty, Vladislav Gavrikov, Joel Edmondson, Jordan Spence. Kevin, why didn't you mention Brandt Clark? Because I'm going to mention him now. I think Drew Doughty and Brandt Clark, that 1-2, basically you're talking about the mid-2010s version of Drew Doughty. That's the hype around Brandt Clark. So now you've got the kind of the ending years of Drew Doughty and the next Drew Doughty on the same team. Hell yeah. I think Kings fans are going to love Brandt Clark. Played with the Barrie Colts. A lot of similar comparisons because of where he was drafted and playing for the Barrie Colts to Aaron Ekblad. If he becomes anything like Aaron Ekblad, I think Kings fans will be quite pleased with what they get from him this year. Now, expect some growing pains. He's a young defenseman. But everybody else on this defense, you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting from Anderson, Doughty, Gavrikov, Edmondson, and Spence. It's not the best defense in the league, but it's well-rounded. And you can move guys around. You can move Edmondson or Spence to that second pair for a little bit. Maybe things aren't going so well early on for Brandt Clark. Throw him on the third pair, right? If he's doing well, maybe play him alongside Doughty a little bit, just to get a little bit more experience playing alongside a guy like that. There's a lot of things they can do here on the blue line. I think that's going to be fun for the coaching staff, kind of playing with the defensive lines, because there's a lot they can do there. And, my biggest thing with the Kings, once again, is goaltending. And, Darcy Kemper comes in. They replace him with Cam Talbot. I don't think it was much of an upgrade. It was kind of just a lateral move, in my opinion. I think that's the weakness of the Kings, is goaltending. And especially in the Pacific Division, you look at the other goalies in this division, right? Well, even if it ends up being a team like the Ducks, right? Like Lucas Dolster or John Gibson, I would say they would be better than Darcy Kemper or David Rittich. Calgary, if they played a team like Calgary in the playoffs, I would still take a guy like David or Dustin Wolf over them. Looking at teams like Vegas, they've got a lot of changes to the goaltending, but they kind of make up for that because of their really solid defense. Vancouver, Thatcher Demko, Artur Silovs. We saw that be an issue for them last season. Edmonton, even Stuart Skinner, they weren't able to They don't have the goaltending to outduel another team, or they don't have the goaltender that can steal a game for them like the teams they've been playing in the playoffs have been able to do. And I think that's the biggest difference for the Kings, and why, even if they make the playoffs next season in 2025, I still, at least in the making of this video, I still don't have them really getting to the promised land, getting to the Stanley Cup finals or the conference finals. I just don't think they're there yet to get to that point. But I think most of you will understand that and see where I'm coming from there. So now we're going to get to the three divisional teams here. At number 3, the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of changes to Vegas this year. Nothing really out of the extraordinary for the Golden Knights in that regard. But we do have to talk about it. So the biggest thing, as we were talking about goaltending, so Adin Hill is the number 1. Logan Thompson gets sent off. He's no longer here. It's Ilya Samsonov now behind Adin Hill. A lot of risk there for the Golden Knights. I don't necessarily like that move, but they're trying to see what they can get out of Samsonov. Maybe they see more from him than what Toronto was able to get out of him. They think they can get more out of that lemon, per se. We'll see how that goes, but 99 points for the Golden Knights. It's still a serviceable season, still top 3 in the division. But I don't know. I'm not sold on that goaltending, to be honest with you. And as much as I like Adin Hill, well, let's talk about the rest of the team here. So defense, Noah Hannafin, Pietrangelo, Theodore, McNabb, Haig, Whitecloud. That is a top 5 defense in the league all around. And we just talked about how I like the Kings defense. Yeah, there's a lot of plug and play with all those guys, but there is a lot more skill and depth to the Golden Knights situation. Barbashev, Eichel, Victor Olofsson coming in to play alongside those guys on the top line. Eichel and Olofsson, I don't know if they played together in Buffalo, but they were both on Buffalo. So I think Vegas is saying, hey, listen, we grabbed a guy from Buffalo before and it turned out pretty well. Let's grab another former Buffalo Sabre and see what we can get out of him. And I think that's what they're thinking there. Well, hopefully not, but they're going to try him out on the top line, it looks like. Dorofeyev, Hurdle, and Stone is your second line. A lot of question there. Can Hurdle stay healthy? Can Stone stay healthy? Brandon Brisson, Carlson, and Alexander Holtz. Alexander Holtz could very easily find himself in the top 6. I think between Olofsson, Stone, and Dorfev, I could see Holtz jumping to that top 6, maybe stealing one of those guys' spots there. That's one to watch for. The rest of the bottom 6 is the same. Carlson, Howden, Roy, and Kolesar all staying together. Overall, I think the Golden Knights are a playoff team. I think they benefit because this is still a weaker division, and I think we're going to see improvement from the Sharks, improvement from the Flames, and the Kraken, and the Ducks, but it's still not like the Atlantic or the Metro. I just don't think there's enough depth there, and when I make my video about the Central Division, we'll talk about that as well. So moving to the other of the team in the Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks. I really like the Canucks. I think they showed what they're capable of. You know, that 2020 wasn't a fluke. They did it again last season. They had a really good season last year. Yeah, they didn't get to the Cup final. They weren't able to get past their crosstown rivals in Edmonton, but this is a good team. And we saw a lot of growth from this team. I think we're going to see even more growth from this team, even from last year. So they finished with 102 points. That's my prediction. They added Jake DeBrusk, Daniel Sprong, Kiefer Sherwood, and Danton Heinen to this team. So a couple of different faces here. Elias Lindholm no longer with the team. It's going to be different, but I think they're going to be okay. And I honestly don't think Lindholm was a good fit for the Canucks. As the season wore along, you could see he just didn't fit there. And I think they kind of did themselves a favor not trying that out. Yeah, it sucks losing him in free agency for nothing, but I think long-term it'll be okay for them. Hughes and Philip Hronik is your top pair defense. I think that's actually pretty solid. He complements Hughes pretty well. Carson Soucy, Tyler Myers. I like Carson Soucy, Tyler Myers. How much more is left in the tank there? Derek Forbert and Vinny Desharnais, grabbing a couple of guys from the West Coast there, the scouts in the West Coast, taking a guy from the Kings and the Oilers on the blue line. But I think those are serviceable defensemen. I think they're going to fit there. That's a big blue line between Hronek, Myers, Forbert. That's a pretty lethal group. That's not a team you want to play in the playoffs. Thatcher Demko and Artur Silovs is your blue line. No changes there. Your goaltending, no changes there. I like the Canucks. I think they're going to be a team with the Oilers fighting for the top of this division once again. And kind of similar to the Metro, where I think there's the top 3 teams in the Metro, I also think there's the top 3 teams in the Pacific, and it's a pretty wide gap. Vegas, Vancouver, and of course, who I think will win the Pacific Division in 2025. That's right, we're giving respect where it's due. I don't think last year was a fluke. The Edmonton Oilers were going to finish with 106 points in 2025. I really like the Edmonton Oilers. There's a lot of things that I like about this team. They're keeping pretty much the band back together, which I think is huge. Same lineup pretty much, but they made a couple of interesting moves that I actually think they might actually be better for it. Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson are expected to play alongside Draisaitl on the second line. Dylan Holloway showed a lot of promise last year. That third line is solid. Alongside Holloway, you've got Adam Henrique, who played really well. I think he was a really underrated pickup when he was brought in, and pat myself on the back a little bit. I think that was the guy they needed there. And then you bring in Corey Perry. Same fourth line, Janmark, Ryan, and Brown. No changes there. Defense, staying the same. Could be good, could be bad, depending on how you look at this. I'm positive here because I think Philip Broberg is going to continue to develop. He's going to be better. Darnell Nurse, he had such a bad season last year. It's going to get better. Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, we saw what Evan Bouchard is truly capable of, and I think playing alongside Ekholm was really the difference for him. He needed a legit defenseman that fit him well as a guy to play with. It allowed Bouchard to play around a little bit more. And Ekholm being the defenseman reliably that he is, it allowed Bouchard to kind of freewheel it. And I think that was the best thing that the Oilers could have done. When they brought in Ekholm, that was perfect. And then your third pair is Kulak and Ceci. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of an upgrade there, but it's serviceable. And then goaltending, we're going to see staying pretty much the same as you continue to have Stuart Skinner as your starter and Calvin Pickard. We're not sure what's going to happen with Evander Kane. There's some questions as to maybe they'll buy him out or trade him. Didn't happen. At this point, you can only trade him. You can't buy him out at this point in the season. Excuse me. But we'll see what happens there. I think the Oilers are still the creme de la creme in the Pacific Division, but don't count out the Golden Knights and the Canucks because I do think there is a spot for them to win this division as well. Now, like I said, there's definitely a gap still. I think there's the first tier, which is Edmonton, Vancouver, and Vegas. Then the second tier, you've got LA, Anaheim, Seattle, and Calgary. And to be honest with you, sorry, San Jose, but you're still in a category of your own. I don't know what to say for the Sharks, but they're continuing their rebuild. They know what they're doing. Their goaltending is what it is, and they know what they're getting. Honestly, I think this is still the weakest division in the National Hockey League. I hate saying that, and I'm sure fans will disagree with me on that, but the reality is a lot of these teams have been rebuilding the last couple years, and teams like the Kings and the Kraken and Calgary are kind of in the middle, and there's just those middle teams are better in other divisions than in the Pacific. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think in the comment section down below? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your predictions for next year's standings. Who's going to win the division? Who's going to be at the bottom? I think it's pretty safe to say the Sharks will be at the bottom, unless something crazy happens, which you never know. But I think it's a pretty safe bet. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the rest of my predictions videos. I have one more left to make, so you should be able to watch the other two I already posted. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again next time. Peace out, guys.